Good morning, everyone. It is my pleasure to introduce our esteemed resource person for the session, Mr. Bose Joseph Tekukatil, a distinguished professional with a wealth of experience in human resources and management consulting. Mr. Bose holds a B.Tech in Mechanical Engineering and an MPA from the University of UOW. He is currently a research scholar in management with a deep focus on strategic HR and organizational development. With over 2 decades of experience in HR strategy, training and consulting, Mr. Bose has carved a reputation as a professor of practice, consultant and trainer. His professional journey includes working as a freelance HR strategist, trainer and consultant since 2021, where he offers services to businesses on a wide range of HR functions. Today, Professor Bose brings his wealth of experience to address an important policy change in the Indian education sector, the National Education Policy (NEP). The NEP aims to overhaul the existing education system, ensuring it meets the demands of a rapidly changing world and addresses the future needs of students, educators, and the workforce at large. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Bose Joseph Tekukatil to the stage with a warm round of applause.
Thank you very much, Ms. for that great introduction, and welcome you all to today's session on FDP 2020. As Ms. Minu has mentioned, I'm basically from industry background and not from academics, so probably I'm maybe the least qualified person to handle this subject, because the subject is all about national education policy. So the people sitting in front of me are actually very eminent academicians, like all our deans are here, Workers are, Ina Miss, Oli Miss, and HOD Joy sir. Who are all having more than, I think, 3 decades of teaching experience with the maize and with ethics. And also the other faculty members sitting over here, I'm sure that at least you might have at least a decade of experience in training and academics. But I have been interestingly following the NEP 2020 since the time the government has slowly introduced and rolled out into the Indian system, because this is going to make a major transformation in the academic ecosystem in India. So if you look at since independence, this is the first time a government comprehensively going to revamp the education system in a country, in a nation. Because in the earlier times we have found that there are some sort of changes or modifications happen to the education system, but that are all on certain sectors or certain segments. But now when we look at the NEP 2020, that the entire system of education, right, starting from the foundation until the doctoral research, the entire system is going to witness a major changes. So the whole idea of this half-day workshop is actually to have an interactive session, and what are all the reforms going to take place, and how is it going to impact our academic life environment. So this is what we are going to see during this half-day workshop. So starting with some of these slides. This is the objective statement of NEP 2020. If you look at it, an education system rooted in Indian ethos, Indian tradition and Indian heritage. നമ്മളെല്ലാവരും കേട്ടിട്ടുണ്ടാവും, ഇന്ത്യയിൽ വലിയ ഒരു വൈജ്ഞാനിക ഒരു എന്താ പറയുക ഒരു സമൂഹം അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ഒരു സിസ്റ്റം ഇന്ത്യയിൽ ഉണ്ടായിരുന്നു. You might have heard about the Nalanda, Takshashila, those kind of ancient universities. And those universities were in fact molding the people in a very holistic manner rather than in a very specialized silos. So actually when we look at the entire NEP 2020 document, what we can see that we are actually going to our past. Because our past is actually holding a lot of heritage and value, which has been given to the world. I would say that a very simple example. നമ്മളെല്ലാവരും യോഗയെ കുറിച്ചിട്ട് ഏകദേശം ഒരു 10-15 വർഷം മുമ്പ് നമുക്കെല്ലാം നല്ല അറിവുണ്ടായിരുന്നു യോഗയെ കുറിച്ചിട്ട്. But when did the yoga being recognized officially internationally, or UN was declaring as an international day of yoga? എപ്പോഴാണ് സംഭവിച്ചത്? ഏതാനും വർഷങ്ങൾക്ക് മുമ്പ്, 23 വർഷം മുമ്പ് സംഭവിച്ചിരിക്കുന്നു. But at the same time, in 2001, when I moved to Dubai for working for one of the state-owned company, there was a yoga club in that company. And I went to the yoga club after the working hours. All the clubs were active and they have got a 3-star site residence facility where all the clubs and the sporting facilities are available. And one of the clubs was the yoga club. And when I went to that yoga club, I surprisingly noted that in that company, out of the 3,000 employees, at least 42 nationalities are working there, but the dominant population is the Indians. And at least we were at that time around 65 to 70% people are there. But when I entered into that yoga room, and by the way, the interesting thing is that the person who has been invited me to join for yoga was a British guy who was my manager, John Cannon. So he was regularly going for that. And when I entered into that room, I realized the 180-degree reverse of that whole population. The 65% of the people or 70% of the people are non-Asians. They are actually practicing yoga. And the yoga master was fortunately an Indian who did his masters in yoga from a reputed institution and working over there. So sometimes we don't realize the rich heritage of our nation. So this is NDP 2020 even addresses that as well. So what are all the rich values we were holding in the past? And over a period of the development, and some of those things we actually lost knowingly or unknowingly, and we have to put it back into our value system. So Indian ethos that contributes directly to transforming India. When we look at the education, the present education or the past one, what was the intention of education? Higher education or school education? What was the intention of education? The education is to educate, impart knowledge to an individual, to gain a job, and to live a life to make his livelihood, isn't it? Very simple. Imparting the knowledge, prepare him for a job, and then finding out a job and then, live a good standard life. That's it. That was very narrow one. Did we ever look at building or framing the higher education landscape of the nation, something connecting with the national development? Or it was people-focused? Purely people-focused rather than minding or taking care of the interest of the nation for the future. So what we really require, what type of people we require, did we ever understand? In NDP 2020, this has been taken into account. Not only actually framing the people, but developing the people to meet the needs and demands of the country as well. So what are the emerging demands which we can forecast for the next 5 years or the 10 years in the country? Are we preparing our people for that one? അതുകൊണ്ടാണല്ലോ നമ്മളിപ്പോൾ ഈ കാലഘട്ടത്തിലാണെങ്കിലും നമ്മൾ പറയുന്നത് എന്താ? India probably a good place for a cheaper education, but not a best place to work. Best place for education because in terms of money and in terms of, I would say that the academic content, probably a good place. But in terms of working, we don't have fun. But India is a fast moving economy. You might have read all the predictions with regards to the economic development of India, what is going to happen in the next 10 years. India is going to be a very strong economy in 4 years. That is what the economic forecast says. And that too, a knowledge-based economy. And many other projects recently launched by the current UPA government as well as the previous one, something you might have heard, Make in India, liberalizing the multinational corporates to function in India, inviting the foreign universities to operate in India. So there are a lot of fundamental reforms are happening here. That all together it is going to take India further forward. So, contributes directly to transforming India, not only preparing a person for person-focused education, but it's a nation-focused as well. That is Bharat. So, you can see that in many areas, name of India is slightly, moving or switching to our traditional name Bharat as well. Sustainably into an equitable and vibrant knowledge society. Equitable and vibrant knowledge society by providing high quality education to all. Equity. High quality education to all, thereby making India a global knowledge superpower. So this is the whole objective of the NEP 2020. To make India a global knowledge superpower in the knowledge-based economy which is going to come. So these are the 5 guiding pillars of NEP 2020. Number 1 is the access. When we say about access, what is the gross enrollment ratio, GER, in higher education in India at present? The latest statistics in 2022 says that it is 28.4. And the latest statistics shows one surprising fact as well. Based on the gender ratio, the women gross enrollment ratio is 0.1% higher than the overall. So 28.4 overall, but 28.5 women enrollment ratio. This is actually a progressive sign that more and more of our sisters are interested in pursuing higher education, and even that cultural norms and systems are also getting flexible or adaptable to that. Next is equity. When we talk about the equity, we may not realize the root reality because we are living in Kerala. But if we go to the northern state or the northeastern region, we can see that there are a lot of people living in the villages still don't have access to the higher education. So this is also going to be addressed by the NEP 2020, because NEP 2020, certain points I am just touching now itself because otherwise I may forget it. One of the core objective of NEP 2020 is that every district in India, there must be a university offering multidisciplinary courses. Every district. And if you ask me when it is going to happen, the whole NEP 2020 program implementation time, initially government said that by 2040. So if we have 16 more years to implement, because this is not going to be something a small change, the entire education system for such a large country, so it takes time. So 2040 is the target date for implementing the whole programs of or the objectives of NEP 2020, so that every district will have. Here we know that instead of, but even we don't have a full-fledged university in every district. Kerala is holding actually per capita population. I think we have got good number of universities in Kerala: Technological University, Medical University, Kerala University, Mahatma Gandhi University, Calcutta University, Kannur University, Sanskrit University. We do have at least, I think, 10 universities, then veterinary, then marine sciences. We do have many, maybe at least 10. But if we go to the northern states, it's not the case. Not even every district have a university. So equity and then quality of the education and then affordability. And still, with regards to the higher education, we can be very proud because we are one of the country that offers reasonably good quality education at an affordable cost. But government says that no, it must be affordable for the marginalized people as well. And then clear accountability. These are the 5 pillars of NEP 2020. We will start with a small discussion. So these are actually a very recent paper reports. Number 1, I thought that rather than completely taking you through the NEP 2020 programs, guidelines, systems and the structures, it would be more apt to discuss something very closely connected or relevant to the audience here. Because we are all working in an engineering colleges, so probably That is the reason why today morning I have a thought about it and I brought these two pieces of news reports. These are all very recent in September. This is published in September. This as well in September 16, 2024. This is reported by businessstandard.com. This is reported by India Today. So both are actually highlighting a concern. And the concern is only 10% of India's 1.5 million engineering graduates to secure jobs this year. This data can be interpreted in different ways. On an average, India is producing 15,000 engineering undergraduates every year. 15 lakhs engineering undergraduates every year. 15 lakhs. And when we look at the post-COVID scenario, the employable was around 5 lakhs. That was the demand of fresh engineers in India every year. So then normally we think, what happens to them? 15 lakh, I'm saying that they passed out to students, engineers, every year. Then you might be wondering, what is the level of enrollment every year for the engineering studies? That is around 3 million, 30 lakhs. 30 lakhs students are studying for engineering. And what was the last SIT result of KTU? How much percentage was that? Anybody have any idea? Around 50. That's the truth. 30 ലക്ഷം ആൾക്കാർ പഠിക്കുന്നുണ്ട്. ഈ യൂണിവേഴ്സിറ്റികളിൽ വഴിയിൽ ഡ്രോപ്പ് ഔട്ട് ചെയ്ത് പോകുന്നത് കുറെ, പിന്നെ SIT വരെ എത്തിയിട്ട് ഒടിഞ്ഞ് പിന്നെ ഡിസ്കണ്ടിന്യൂ ചെയ്ത് പോകുന്നവർ വേറെ ഒരു വിഭാഗം. അങ്ങനെ എല്ലാം കൂടെ കൂടിയിട്ട് നമ്മൾ ഒരു ടേൺ ഔട്ട് റേഷ്യോ, പ്രോബബ്ലി വി ഓൾ ഹാവ് ടു തിങ്ക് അബൌട്ട് ഇറ്റ്. ടേൺ ഔട്ട് റേഷ്യോ, വാട്ട് ഈസ് ടേൺ ഔട്ട് റേഷ്യോ? 2024 എഞ്ചിനീയറിംഗിന് നമ്മുടെ ഇൻസ്റ്റിറ്റ്യൂഷനിൽ എത്ര പേര് ജോയിൻ ചെയ്തു? ഞങ്ങളിവിടെ വെറുതെ പറയുകയാണെങ്കിൽ 300 പേര് ജോയിൻ ചെയ്തു. 2024 300 പേര് എഞ്ചിനീയറിംഗിന് ജോയിൻ ചെയ്തിട്ടുണ്ടെങ്കിൽ ഇവർ പാസ്സായിട്ട് ഇറങ്ങേണ്ടത് 2028 എഞ്ചിനീയേഴ്സ് ആയിട്ട് പുറത്തിറങ്ങേണ്ടി വരും. 2028 ഈ 300-ൽ എത്ര എണ്ണം പുറത്തിറങ്ങും? എഞ്ചിനീയേഴ്സ് ആയിട്ട് പുറത്തിറങ്ങും. And that is what the university research says. From college to college that varies. The colleges who are very fortunate to get good talents might have definitely a higher pass rate, but for others it's really challenging. So on an average it is 50%. So 30 ലക്ഷം ആൾക്കാർ പഠിക്കണം, 15 ലക്ഷം ആൾക്കാർ പുറത്തിറങ്ങണം. നമ്മുടെ രാജ്യത്തിന്റെ നീഡ് 2022 just immediately after the post-COVID, now it is improved. It was only 5 lakhs per annum. Now the latest statistics says that yes, in the current year 2024, we are in need of around 10 lakhs to 12 lakhs engineers. India requires 10 to 12 lakhs engineers. I'm giving these figures based on some statistical report, labor statistical reports. And then they are saying that only 10% of India, 1.5 million engineering graduates to secure jobs this year. Look at the second report. National Engineering Day. In the context of the National Engineering Day that we celebrated in September, there was another report came. 90% of the graduates face employability challenges. Employability challenges. I'm just giving few information. Last week I was attending an FDP in the same hall, and the resource person was Mr. Pradeep, Assistant Vice President of Nest Technologies. And Pradeep says that, I think he said at least 10 times during the conference that we have 500 vacancy open, we have 1000 vacancy open in Japan. Then he is adding to that one, but we are not getting competent engineers to fill the position. They are still hunting for hundreds of engineers, and that is more or less the same case of most of the prominent IT recruiters. They are not getting the right talent. Now let's go for a discussion. I think probably randomly you can respond to this question. Why? Why the employability of Indian engineers are such a low? And 2 years before, Times of India reported that only 8% of the Indian engineers are employed. Having employable skills. And where does the gap remain? So that's probably in this morning we can think about it, and then we will look at the NAP 2020 reforms, how it is going to address this issue. Randomly you can respond. You don't need to take it a very formal session because we are a very small group, and let's be very interactive. Basic knowledge. lack of basic knowledge. നമ്മൾ ഡിബേറ്റ് ചെയ്ത് പോകാൻ കേട്ടോ, നിങ്ങൾക്ക് റെസ്പോണ്ട് ചെയ്യാൻ ഉണ്ടെങ്കിൽ റെസ്പോണ്ട് ചെയ്യുകയും ചെയ്യാം. Yeah. 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 Maybe one good observation what is shared. നമുക്ക് മനസ്സിലാവാൻ പറ്റാത്ത ഒരു എന്താ പറയാ ഒരു യാഥാർത്ഥ്യം എന്താണെന്നറിയോ? +2 കുട്ടികളുടെ വിജയ ശതമാനം എത്രയാണ്? 99. ഞാൻ ഓർമ്മിക്കുന്നില്ല എത്രയാണ്. സ്റ്റേറ്റ് ബോർഡിന്റെ എത്രയായിരുന്നു? സ്റ്റേറ്റ് ബോർഡ് എനിവേ അറൗണ്ട് 90 ആണെന്നാണ് എന്റെ മനസ്സിൽ കിടക്കുന്നത്. And then what happens to those people who are coming for engineering and then getting a 50% result? The standard we kept for the state board and the intake standard or the subject standard for the engineering undergraduate program വലിയൊരു ഗ്യാപ്പ്. അതുകൊണ്ടാണല്ലോ നമ്മുടെ എഞ്ചിനീയറിംഗ് പ്രോഗ്രാമിൽ വരുന്ന കുട്ടികളെ ഒന്നാം സെമസ്റ്ററിൽ മാത്സും ഫിസിക്സും കെമിസ്ട്രിയും പൈത്തനും ഒക്കെ പഠിപ്പിക്കാനായിട്ട് ചെല്ലുന്നവര് എന്താ പറയാ ഒരു കാര്യം ശരിക്കും ക്ലേശിക്കുകയാണല്ലേ, കഷ്ടപ്പെടുകയാണ്. ഇവിടെ സംഭവിക്കാറുണ്ട്. ഇടയ്ക്കൊക്കെ നമ്മൾ ഇവിടെ വന്നു. കഴിഞ്ഞ വർഷം ഇപ്പൊ ഞാൻ തന്നെ ഇനിഷ്യേറ്റീവ് എടുത്ത് കൊണ്ടുവന്ന ഒരു കുട്ടീനെ S3 ആയപ്പോൾ ഞാൻ തന്നെ ഇനിഷ്യേറ്റീവ് എടുത്ത് TC ഒക്കെ കൊടുത്ത് വിടേണ്ടി വന്നു. അപ്പൊ ആ കുട്ടിയുടെ മാർക്ക് റെഫർ ചെയ്യുമ്പോൾ ഷീ സ്കോർഡ് 80% above for maths, physics, everything. S1 വന്നു, ആ കുട്ടി എല്ലാത്തിനും പൊട്ടി. S2 വന്നു, ആ കുട്ടി എല്ലാത്തിനും പൊട്ടി. എന്നിട്ട് കാരണവന്മാർക്ക് മനസ്സിലാ കൊണ്ടുപോവാൻ. പിന്നെ അവരുടെ കരഞ്ഞ് കാല് പിടിച്ച് ഞാൻ പറഞ്ഞു ആ കുട്ടിയുടെ സമയവും ഞങ്ങളുടെ സമയവും വെറുതെ വേസ്റ്റ് ആക്കരുത് എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞു. Then they took a very good decision and that girl is studying in St. Thomas College in Paris for the BCA program where she is reasonably doing well. അപ്പൊ നമ്മൾ വിചാരിക്കും പള്ളിക്കൂടത്തിൽ നന്നായിട്ട് പഠിച്ചതാണ് ഇവിടെ വന്ന് കുഴപ്പിപ്പോയതായിരിക്കും. നോ, ആ കുട്ടി ഹോസ്റ്റലിലായിരുന്നു. ഇവൻ ഹോസ്റ്റലിൽ പോലും ഞാൻ വളരെ നല്ല രീതിയിൽ അതിനെ നിരീക്ഷിക്കേണ്ട ഒരു സംവിധാനം ഏർപ്പെടുത്തി ഇത് പഠിക്കുന്നുണ്ടെന്ന്. ഷി വാസ് സ്പെൻഡിങ് എ ഗുഡ് amount of time for learning. But learning methodology was very different. That was adapt for an engineering education. So that is one of the main issue. We will see that one when we go to the solutions. What are the other problems? Why employability of Indian engineers are such a low?
Maybe some of what they know, they may not be communicating properly.
Yes, Mr. has mentioned it indirectly.
They are not given the proper guidance. Actually, to join and what are their actual ability before joining.
Before joining, so that means their aptitude is not being verified and they are not admitted into a proper program accordingly. So is that you mean? Okay. Both answers are very correct.
They are not properly trained.
Yes.
Sir, some students having higher mark, that is 80 mark,
Yeah.
are not getting job. But some other students having 60 or with a supply and after clearing supply, they will get good jobs. Some lack of aptitude may be there.
Yeah.
And other things like related to practical and other things may be there.
Yeah, all these responses are very valid, but unfortunately I can hear the responses from only MPs. I wish to hear some different noises as well, please. Ms. Marek, എന്താ പറയുന്നത്?
There's a gap between the academics and industry.
Absolutely right. There is a big gap exists between the requirement of the industry or the business and what the academic institutions are delivering. So there is a big gap. If we just meditate on this particular point, what do you think about the pace of development happening in the technological side in the industry? The speed of the technological development happening in the industry. And in this era, it is very fast. Am I right? It is very fast. Maybe technologies are getting outdated in 6 months' time and moving to the next one. So that is the speed at which the technological advancements are happening in the industry. and how often we revise our syllabi in KTU? In 5 years. So this is one of the core area. The industry institution participation is very limited. Probably we prepare something, a lot of MOUs, and that sleeps in there in the paper, and there is not a healthy way for the namesake only. It's not happening real life. So the speed of the technical advancements, what we are doing, we are actually